Welcome back to the Office Marketing Podcast with Mike Swigert, the podcast all about sales tips, mindset, and value bombs. 5 questions to help make your day more productive and learn a thing or two. Here is your host, best-selling author, Mike Swigert.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for taking time out of your day and listening to the Office Marketing Podcast. I've got a really kind of a fun guest today. We're going to talk about how to get the most out of a special event, how to grow your business through events, how to, we'll probably get a little granular about specific networking and marketing, but we literally have one of the vice presidents of BizNow, an old friend. Thank you for coming back on the show, Brian Kinslow. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day.
Thank you so much for having me. I want to say I love what you're doing with this podcast. I think it's really great. So I appreciate you having me on today.
If you don't know who Brian Kinslow is, or if you don't know BizNow, they probably just haven't come to your city yet. They are just an amazing group. I was a very, very active participant in BizNow events in Atlanta. I saw them go and just grow and have amazing guests. The events were always done extremely professionally. And I just looked forward to the events, Brian. So I'm coming from an awesome perspective of someone who really appreciates what you have done and just fantastic events, content, and people. I want to thank you for what you guys have done.
I really appreciate you saying that. We operate at such a scale. People think we're some massive company. We actually have an incredibly lean team. So all of those very professional events, there was something between 2 to 5 people that did those events that had 600 or 700 people at it. So I appreciate you for using our product. We put our heart and soul into everything we do. So I always love to hear when people have nice things to say and appreciate the work that we're doing.
Hey, Brian, I wouldn't do it if it didn't turn into revenue for me and my family and the companies I worked for. So believe me, yeah. it was a give and take relationship. Hey, why don't we talk a little bit about you and your background, kind of how you ended up with BizNow and what some of your responsibilities are.
I wish I could say I was very strategic in finding BizNow as a company. So I graduated. I worked for close to 5 years at a produce company and based out of South Jersey, this industrial park. There was maybe a McDonald's around there. That was about the only fast food place that I could go to eat. And I spent a couple of years there. It was a good first company, but it was very much that. It was very much an entry-level job. Then I started falling in love with my now wife, and she wanted to move in together. She lived up in New York, and she basically gave the ultimatum, like, okay, either we do this or we go our separate ways. So I was very encouraged to find a job based out of New York, and I randomly found BizNow. It just kind of happened. I was not in real estate at the time. I was sort of in sales. I was in this hybrid sales marketing role. So they hired me, and they said, hey, we have this sales position open for a business manager for the Southeast, primarily Atlanta. And I was like, great, I've never been to Atlanta and I've never been in real estate. And the training program was basically, here's a plane ticket, good luck, make it work. So that was about 8 years ago. And I was able to grow revenue in the Southeast to a point where I was able to finally hire some people, institute a bit of a managerial structure. We were a very flat organization when I first started, and we still are, but we have a hierarchy now that was necessary. And from there, my role has grown. I now manage the largest team within BizNow. I oversee the largest geographical territory within BizNow, basically anything on the East Coast over to the Midwest, Denver, Phoenix. So that's sort of how I grew. But yeah, I sort of just fell into this position.
All right, Brian, you got to tell me the first event you did in Atlanta. How did you do it? You probably remember your guests. You probably remember how many people showed up. Just tell us real quick, a nickel tour of that first event.
First event was on the industrial market in Atlanta. I do remember the speakers. A few of the people are actually now retired, people that are well-known in the industry. It was a 2-panel event. I would say there was something around 200 people in the room that day. We had a really solid following at the time. I didn't start BizNow Atlanta. I came into it. It was in its infancy at that point. Really high energy event. And I wanted to make my mark. I wanted to really brand myself as this person who can host these professional events, have really important people in the room, have a great networking experience, but also leave with a smile on your face and, have a good time doing it. So I had planned this in my head, have this great joke, at the end of my little intro monologue, you're gonna stick the landing with this awesome joke. I said the joke, and the crickets weren't even making noise. Like, it was just absolute silence. So that was my first. I started off Atlanta with a huge bomb, but thanks to many people like you always were open to having coffee with me or letting me meet you in your office at the time. So we picked it up from there. My jokes stick the landing now, but at the time that was my very first event, an industrial event at the Ritz-Carlton in Buckhead.
All right, I hate to pry, but what was the joke? You got to tell me, Brian. Like, what do you remember?
So I was like trying to be PG with it and also sort of be funny. So I think my joke was something like, hey, there's a lot of food and coffee in the back. If you don't eat it and drink it, then they force the BizNow employees to drink it. And the last thing you want is a bunch of very full, very caffeinated BizNow employees running around your city. And I thought it was gonna just get knee slaps, and it got nothing. It got absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you know what? I don't want to, you might want to stick with your day job. I don't know if writing comedy is really your thing, but I'm thinking there's something funny there, but eventually you'll land that. You'll stick that landing. But
yeah, that's when my comedy career pretty much ended.
Hey, Brian, right, but on a very positive note, you got to a point where there was a while there you were doing a lot of events in Atlanta. I mean, about how many were you doing down here before you moved up out of the Atlanta market?
We started doing around one a month. That grew to about one every other month. And we got to a point right before the pandemic where we were planning on something around 2 every single month. And these aren't small events. These are the smallest event we would do in Atlanta would get 200 and upwards of 7, maybe even 800 people. So we're talking these big, massive events that require a lot of work. But yeah, we were looking somewhere in the 20 to 24 event range before we had to shut everything down last year, at least in the in-person world.
All right, good. So let's talk about up before the shutdowns. And so we're doing about 2 a month. And then how many cities is BizNow in right now nationwide? How many are we in altogether?
Continental US, we're in 42 markets. So the 2 events per month were per market, right?
Right.
So we're every major metro. We're also international now in Canada as well as in Europe. We're by far the largest publication. It's incredible the growth that we've seen. We have just shy of 1.5 million subscribers to our newsletter. On a normal year, we host about 350 events, so roughly 2 per month in every single market that we do. So that's we've certainly scaled up and leveled up.
All right, good. So if I kind of want to go, I don't want to timestamp this too much because I kind of want to go up to the stage of normalcy, right? So in general, up until a year before now, right? What would a company do to get engaged with BizNow? Like, obviously, I mean, people listening to this know that I was a master connector, master networker, and did everything I could to get the most out of the events I went to. But like, from your perspective, what did you see from the companies that got involved with BizNow that got a lot out of it? Like, what were they doing?
It's a great question. It's a parallel I like to draw to working out. I'm not the most fit guy, but I do CrossFit from time to time. It's like going to the gym, right? And if 2 people can have the same gym membership, right? And if the one person goes and all they do is maybe walk on the treadmill for a couple of minutes and then socialize, and the other person goes in with a plan of here's how I'm going to attack the gym for this hour that I'm here. I'm going to go, I'm going to record what I do. I have a set schedule and they work really hard. Well, in 6 months, the person who worked really hard is going to look really good. And the person who sort of, goes and kind of socializes, they're not going to necessarily look as good. Both were given the same exact opportunity. So we have we have the largest network of people in commercial real estate, just period. So the people that go have a plan. They know who they want to target. They set up the booth, but they don't just sit at the booth. They go and they make sure they're bringing people over and saying, hey, look at this pamphlet I have, or look at this sample of product that I have. Or if you're a furniture company, come sit in this beautiful chair that massages you as you work and, is ergonomic design, right? The people that actually work the room have a plan for how they're going to do it and don't simply just set up a sign and say, okay, well, my job is done, right? Your job is just starting when you get there and you set those kind of things up. So there's a lot of different opportunities within our events, but the people that actually have a plan and work their plan, those are the folks that typically have very positive things to say at the end.
That's good. And when it comes to BizNow, you can get involved with like, I mean, there's all kinds of things you have, right? You have like title sponsors of the event, and then you could actually have a booth, and then you actually have like an online marketing opportunity too, right? I mean, are those kind of the main ways you can use BizNow for your business?
All the above. Yeah, there's two sections to our business. There's our online publication, which I mentioned we have just shy of 1.5 million people that subscribe to that. And there's plenty of advertising opportunities, plenty of content opportunities within there to help promote your business. I'm actually always blown away by how we show value and show ROI with what we do. To my knowledge, we're the only company out there that actually shows things, not just the high level people that saw it, people that clicked. We can get very detailed into who's clicking and how to target people through account-based marketing strategies. There's a lot we can do on the digital side. But to focus on events, there's the low level, which is just basic branding, right? It gets you in the door. It gets your brand associated with that event, all the way up to title sponsor. And for your audience, they might be interested. My favorite thing that we do, my favorite thing that I sell is the ability to host one of our events at your vacant property. So if you own a building and there's roughly 10,000 square feet of vacant space, we can come in and activate that space, have an incredibly professional event there, and have 200, 300, 500 people go and experience your property. So office owners, retail owners, industrial, you name it. We love doing those kind of things.
By the way, you and I are 1,000 miles apart from each other, but I feel your energy, Brian. Seriously, I don't know. There's very few people that I have on Zoom that have more energy and charisma than you have right now. So I'm really, I hope someone's watching this on YouTube, because they're just going to be like, this guy's awesome. I don't care. I just want to go see this guy.
This episode of the Office Marketing Podcast is brought to you by Fusion Advisory. We help commercial contractors generate leads online profitably. Check us out at fusion-advisory.com.
If you're watching, I'm wearing glasses now. I did not used to wear glasses. I've just been on so many Zooms. It's repetition. And it's also a lot of caffeine.
Well, or you could be me and turn 50, and all of a sudden, for 50 years, I'm like, yeah, I'll never need glasses. I'll never need glasses. And then I put them on about a couple months ago, and I thought, I can see a little better. This is some good stuff right here. So let's go back into, so if someone has never been to a BizNow event, and they what's some tips you can give someone? Say they're an individual business development person. What are some simple tips you can give that person as they're starting? Let's just go from 101, right? Because I think you really hit some really high level things with the metaphor of the working out, but like just some 101. What are some things a business development person could do to get the most out of their first event?
So just generally, as you're starting your journey of networking, there's a couple of things that I've noticed, and I'm a bit of an expert. I've been at probably 400 networking events that I've hosted myself. So I get to sort of take this high level view of people that do it successfully. The first thing, and I have maybe 4 things that I can go through. The first thing, and this is groundbreaking, Mike, show up. Right? That's the first step. The first step is actually show up, and show up on time. There's the structure of a BizNow event, it's networking, and then there's a panel conversation normally. And the people that show up on time have the full hour plus of networking. There are also the people that are a bit timid, and maybe they show up 5 minutes before the panel goes on, and they do that strategically. So show up on time. The second thing I want to say as you're starting is get uncomfortable. Networking is like almost inherently uncomfortable. I actually personally don't enjoy it. I've gotten good at it, and I obviously understand the value of it, but don't go to a networking event, seek out your one friend or seek out that one person, stick by their side, kind of close yourself off, go up to somebody that you don't know. Make sure you leave every networking event you go to with a new connection, right? So get uncomfortable, talk to people that you don't know. And I got to say, there's nothing that makes me more annoyed that when the group of 5 people show up to an event together, they stand in a corner, they drink their coffee together, they sit together, watch the panel, and then they leave together. I appreciate that you came to the event, but you've paid some money to be here. Don't you want to meet somebody new? Don't you want to grow your network? So that's number 2, is get uncomfortable. 3, and this is something that's big. Part of me feeling uncomfortable going to networking events was I didn't think I was particularly interesting, right? Especially when I started going down to Atlanta, I would show up by myself. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the city. I couldn't talk about what high school I went to. I literally had no value, at least from what I thought. So always tried to come prepared with something to talk about. And each event has a specific theme, right? So if you're going to go to an event and there's a lot of construction people there, well, maybe you go and you say you can just off the top of your head, when you start talking to somebody after you've exchanged pleasantries, you can say something like, "Hey, what do you think about modular construction?" And then that will spur a further conversation. Or if you're at a finance event, you can say, you can exchange pleasantries, and then you say something like, "Hey, what do you think about the crypto world? Isn't that pretty crazy right now?" So just have something to talk about, right? And it's not hard. You don't have to do hours and hours of research. Just know who's going to be in the room, know what these people are interested in talking about, and be able to be conversational about it. And you'll be shocked with where the conversation goes from there. And the last thing is have no fear in these. Mike, I know you golf. I golf too, not very well, but when I first started golfing and I wanted to go and I wanted to play, I was always a bit nervous because I didn't want to join a random foursome, because in my head, these were all Tiger Woods and Rory McIlroy, and everybody was going to be a scratch golfer, and I was going to be by far the worst golfer out there. But then I started to do it, and I realized, like, oh wait, no, everybody doing this stinks at golf, right? And then you just become friendly. So, going up to people, don't have it in your head that these people are incredibly intelligent, way smarter than you, and make way more money than you, and look way better than you. Just go into it understanding these people are your equals. These people want to meet more people. That's why they're at a networking event. So go into it with an open mind, and don't really have any fear. Don't have those ideas in your head that you might not be good enough, because that was something I struggled with early on when I started networking.
Brian, all right, so I'm going to recap because I loved your angle, guys. The Brian Kinslow 4 steps to networking prowess. All right. Okay. 1, I'm just going to recap. 1, show up. 2, get uncomfortable. 3, come prepared. And 4, have no fear. I love that. Yeah. Brian, that's brilliant.
There's one I probably missed, and it's maybe the most important. And I know you're a big follow-up guy. So I wouldn't be doing anybody service if I didn't mention the follow-up. So make sure you take action. If somebody gives you a business card, send them an email. If somebody talks about a business idea, make sure you follow up on that and expand on that. I can speak from experience. I was networking at a BizNow event, started talking to a guy who is launching a produce company. So this ended up, now I'm on his advisory board because I took action in what he was saying. Really interesting guy. Sent him an email. I was like, really liked what you were talking about. Can we talk? That turned into a 2-hour Zoom, and now here I am helping him launch his business.
Brian, I just think if everybody just timestamped this and really just kind of came back on that, I love that. And we're going to call that as take action. I'm going to put this in the show notes, right? As far, I'm going to repeat it again, right, guys? Show up. But I think you said it so just understated, but like for me, when I think about showing up, it's like almost show up with the right mindset, show up in a good place, show up with gratitude in your heart, show up with leave your stress in your car, show up with, like you got to leave it there. Like I always felt like when I was doing networking, it was almost the same as whenever I taught a spin class or whenever I was in high school and I was in a play, right? You have to have the mindset. It's a little bit of a performance. I don't want that to come across as fake, but like you have to be in that state. You have to show up because that's your job, right? Yeah. If it's your company, it's your job to generate revenue for the company, for the people on your team. If you're a salesperson, it's your job to generate revenue for your bosses and for your family, right? I mean, it is your job. So show up. Yeah. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think that getting uncomfortable, expanding on that, Brian, you talked about that sort of pod that shows up, and it's so funny is like here in Atlanta, there's sort of a group of us that would always show up to all the network, whether it be again, BizNow, NAOP, IFMA, Circle of Trust, all these great networking events you can go to in Atlanta. Yeah. And we would all see each other, but at that 1 hour of pre-networking, we would all show up and we'd connect with the people that we wanted to connect with. We'd sit in for the panel. And then as soon as the panel's gone, everyone's gone. And then the networkers, we would stick around and kind of share notes.
Yeah.
So like we
That's really
knew
cool.
that was, that we're done. Now we could kind of go like, hey, did you see so-and-so here? Hey, what do they have going on? And so we would kind of connect dots afterwards. So it was like pre-networking, the panel, and then we would kind of connect with the pros.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to think about it. It's also like diversify the types of events you're going to. Get uncomfortable going to events that you're not an expert on, right? It would be very easy for me to go to a Philadelphia area group of people named Brian that are sort of good at golf event. I would get along great with probably everybody there.
Yeah.
But if I can go to an event that I'm not an expert on, or with people that don't look or sound or act like me, I'm going to become a better person. I'm going to grow my network, and I'm going to find way more opportunity in doing that.
Yeah. Actually, your parallel you said about not everybody is a rock star. I hate to timestamp this, but last week there was there's an amateur event at Augusta National, right?
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine got to go. He was there for every day. Everyone was allowed to bring 2 family members plus 1 guest. And at this event, what's that?
Did he play?
No. His girlfriend actually played. He's and I say he's a buddy. I've known him since he's a little kid. His girlfriend, friend of my son's. So I talked to him about the event, and he was like,
"Yeah,
you'd be amazed at how many 20-footers they run 30 feet by." And this is literally the best amateurs in the world. Best amateurs in the world hitting 20-foot putts 30 feet by the hole. So don't think that just because someone is literally one of the top 100 amateurs in the world playing at Augusta National, not everybody is just, we're all human. Like, it's okay to go up and talk to people. Now, some people are going to big time you, but you know what? They weren't going to do business with you anyway. They're just kind of, they're culling themselves. So I appreciate it. So we've covered a bunch of great stuff. Brian, you touched on a little bit about your very above average golf game. Tell us a little something about you that maybe not everybody knows about Brian Kinslow.
So if you've been to an event that I've hosted, this may not come as a surprise, but something that not everybody knows about me is I officiate weddings. I officiate a lot of weddings. I am officiating at a wedding on Saturday, and it sort of came in this funny way where my longtime friend called me about 3 weeks before his wedding, and he was like, "Hey man, you're comfortable public speaking, right?" I said, "Sure, I do it a lot." He said, "Oh, well, can you marry me in 3 weeks?" And I said, "What was your backup plan if I said no?" He said, "I knew you wouldn't say no." So I officiated his wedding. Word got out that I do this. I've been able to spend the most special moments of my best friends' lives. I married my uncle not that long ago. The person on Saturday, our dads were best friends in high school, and then we became best friends, and now I'm marrying him and his wife. I have another one scheduled for December. So that might be something that it's a logical thing if you see me on stage, but what most people don't know is I officiate weddings.
That's really cool. Well, you know what?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I've been married 26 years, and I said,
"You need a vow renewal."
No, you'll appreciate this, Brian. So I said to my son, who's 17 years old, I said, "Hey, buddy, I worded it kind of funny, but I said something like, if we did a ceremony, would you be my best man?" Right? Because he's just one of my favorite people in the entire world.
Yeah.
Well, he answered it immediately, and he goes, "Dad, I would just never do that to Mom." And I was just like, no. Like, if I renewed my vows with Mom, no. I'm like, he was like,
what the heck, Dad?
He was like, "I would never do that to Mom." And I loved it. And I told my wife, and she was like, "Oh, he's so sweet and loyal." And I'm like, oh gosh, I've been married 26. This is my wife for another ever. This is my forever wife. Yeah. So if she's put up with me for this long, I think she can wait it out another 30. But I thought it was sweet that he was like, "I would never do that to Mom."
That's great. That's a great answer.
I thought it was so genuine. He does love his mom. So, hey, let's kind of go into just a hair, what do you see happening? Are we going to go into a little bit of a hybrid role when it comes to events? And talk to us a little bit about maybe just this summer and fall as we're planning networking, the great reopening. I know we're hearing really good things for after the 4th of July. So talk to us about how you see the networking events having a blend and being able to accommodate for all people this fall.
So I love in-person events. Obviously, my company loves in-person events as well. So there is a lot of pent-up demand for people getting out there and bumping elbows or shaking hands or whatever is socially acceptable at the time. It's a lot of pent-up demand to get in person and see each other. But there's this new opportunity that was unveiled when we had to take everything digital. And it's some obvious, right? If you go to a networking event, the people that are there genuinely live in that area, right? So with maybe in an hour drive of wherever that event's being held. If you go on a virtual event, we have had people from every state, from many different countries joining in and networking with each other. So there's no longer this barrier, and a lot of deals are getting done at these things, right? If you live in New York, but maybe you want to invest some money in Florida, you hear great things about Florida and you want to invest your money into there. Well, you can now join a virtual event. You don't have to buy a plane ticket. You can just log on for 45 minutes or an hour or 2 hours. You can learn about the market and you can now network. So that's something that's been really great. Also, the use of data, right? The ability to track the individual, to know what people are interested in, and to know that, for sometimes with our sponsors, we're able to tell them exactly who showed up at an event. So from a business development standpoint, if you were a speaker at this event and you could see every single person that attended, well, now you can reach out to these individuals and have your virtual coffee or your, set up a time to actually golf with this person. So really utilizing the tools that the digital world has uncovered. So there's a lot of benefit to digital, although the world is moving back to eventually getting back to in person. I do think initially there is absolutely going to be a hybrid approach where the event's happening live. If there's a content component, there's a live stream of that or a recording of that. And maybe there's this world where there's the in-person event, there's 500 people in person, they're shaking hands, they're networking. Then there's this digital component of the event where you can watch the content, but you're not just sitting there watching. There's also digital networking that can happen. So you don't lose the networking if you're not necessarily at the building. So I definitely think there's that sort of a hybrid model coming. And I think it'll be here sooner than you may realize. We're working some things out on our end that may be here as recently as the end of this month.
Good. Brian, I'm so glad to hear that. I obviously feel like, I'm a real people. I'm an oxytocin addict, I really love being in a room full of people. I mean, it's really, that supercharges me. But I also respect that there's people that just kind of want to say, all right, you know what? I'm not quite ready for that, but I don't want them to feel left out. Because they still have to generate revenue for their companies and the people that work at their companies. So I'm really glad to hear you guys are creating an environment that is accommodating to so many different types of people.
Yeah.
That's going to be really important. So I hope it sticks around. Because I want to do that. Like, I think if you had a cool event going on in New York or Denver or something, and may not be a topic that is important to Atlanta. Like I interviewed an architect that does dispensaries, right? She did grow centers, processing centers, and dispensaries.
Yeah.
Well, in Georgia, that's not very important. But where she is, in her part of the country, she's as busy as could be.
Yeah.
And eventually in Georgia and South Carolina and Alabama and Tennessee, there's going to be dispensaries everywhere. But I was able to almost get ahead in time by hearing her speak. And I feel like that's what people could use BizNow for.
Yeah, absolutely. We've hosted something like 800 virtual events since we had to shut everything in person down last year. So if there's a topic you're interested in commercial real estate, we are probably hosting it.
All right, good. All right, well, let's wind this down. Tell me a little bit of something more about you when it comes to your mindset, your positivity. What do you do, Brian? Like your energy on stage and in person is always so good. What do you do to keep it so positive?
Well, I appreciate you saying that. So there's a couple things. I also have 2 young kids I have 3.5 and almost 1 year old. He's 1 in a few weeks. So I also have that going on my personal side. How do I keep myself positive and mindful? I can't believe I'm this guy, but I do CrossFit now. So working out and being healthy and having that kind of a mindset, I feel like is really beneficial to your overall health. I also make it a point to try to be very mindful of how well things are going. This past year, it's very easy to say, hey, things stink. I can't go to a restaurant. I can't see my friends or family. Like, things just stink. But if you take the other side of it, it's like, okay, me personally, I mentioned I have a 1-year-old. I was able to spend every day of my 1-year-old's life with him, right? That's a great, I've been able to put in so much family time. I've been able to work on my grass. My grass looks great right now. Like you figure out these things, you just try to take a step back and try to identify what's happening that's going really well. And then this is sort of a vice, but I found it to be very, very positive for my mental health, is pretty much every Sunday night, I throw on a podcast, maybe yours. I put the leash on my dog and I go for a walk for about 2 hours after the kids are in bed. My wife goes to bed early and I go for about a 2-hour walk. Occasionally I'll smoke a cigar. That's the vice part of it, but it gives me time to have some real alone time to think about my week, to think about my intentions for the upcoming week. I usually end up calling somebody I haven't talked to in a while to catch up. It's really been great for me to have that hour to 2 hours just to myself, be in my own head, and make sure I can think about everything I have going on. So those are just 3 things that I personally do.
I love it. All right, now you've got to share a book with me because I know you're a lifelong learner, or a podcast. Share something with me. Hey, by the way, anybody listening to this podcast, this is a very selfish one because normally when someone tells me a good book, I regularly just get it on Audible real quick. So Brian, what do you got? What do you got for me?
I for whatever reason, I really like biographies. I like to learn about successful people and how they got there. That's where I geek out on. It's just like, how did this person either overcome something, or how did this person that was, started in this place end up in this place? So I have 2 books that I read, and there's sort of recency bias, but 2 that I read that I really liked. Ride of a Lifetime, Bob Iger's book, the CEO of Disney. Fantastic, incredible person. He talks about all of the mergers and acquisitions that they went through. He talked about his role models in life. I recommended that book to a few people and they've also really enjoyed it. So that means a lot. The other one, this is one that maybe not a lot of people would admit is a book they hold in high regard, but I'm a Philly guy, right? And I have a lot of pride in that. There's another Philadelphia native, Kevin Hart. He came out with a book a year or 2 ago called I Can't Make This Up. It's about his journey of how he became the Kevin Hart that we all know. And it was not easy. He had a really, really crazy, really tough childhood. And it's, of course, a very lighthearted, very comedy forward book, but he talks about his journey. The grit that this guy has is incredible. The work ethic that Kevin Hart has, it's really fascinating to read. So I legitimately just finished that one 2 nights ago. But it's a really easy read. It's really just inspirational to see, somebody who everybody knows right now. And you like, oh, okay, this is just a celebrity. But to really hear that story about how this person went from pretty tough situation with a lot going on around him, right? Dad in jail kind of a thing, to one of the biggest celebrities on the planet. So I really like that book. I Can't Make This Up by Kevin Hart.
Brian, Kevin Hart is absolutely one of I'm in awe of Kevin Hart. And if you literally took the comedy out, I mean, he's a brilliant comedian. He obviously, his work ethic is insane. The way he tests his content. If anybody knows what actually goes into a presentation, what he did in the round in London a couple of years ago was just, he did it from the center. And as a speaker, I was set to speak at a little over 30 events last year, and I've got 8 booked for this fall. But I watched someone like Kevin Hart, and I watch his mannerisms, and I watch his physical presence and his timing and his cadence and his tone. I'm like, that guy is phenomenal. Yeah. Brian, he's so good.
And he had his vision, and he always talked about it. And he never strayed from just working it out. And no matter what life threw at him, it was a really good book.
Yeah, he's as good. I've been lucky to see a lot of great people live. I've seen, when I think about great performers, whether it be Tony Robbins or Kevin Hart, I saw George Carlin live and just literally just mesmerize a stage. I've seen Les Mis. I've seen, I like whoever it is. I learned something from all of these great performers, and I'm just in awe of greatness. And really, whether it be Alfie Boe being the lead for Les Mis, or I saw Morrison do Finding Neverland, like all these great performers have been great, really glad to see. Or Wicked. Kevin Hart's right up there with everybody. It's so cool. So I'm a co-fan with you. I'm a fanboy of Kevin Hart right there with you. So, hey, Brian, if someone wanted to get in touch with you and maybe learn more BizNow, how to be a part of BizNow. I mean, what do? They kind of jump on LinkedIn and find you, or what's the best way to get you, Brian?
You can LinkedIn my name. I will respond very quickly if you shoot me a message. If you want to get involved with BizNow, I couldn't recommend it more. Yes, I'm biased. I work for the company, but we legitimately help companies grow their business, and we help companies do more business. So if you want to find out more about BizNow, how you can get involved on that side, brian.kinslow@biznow.com. Quick side note, BizNow is BISNOW. It is actually somebody's last name. Our founder's name was Mark Bisnow. So people think it's a play on business now. It is not. It is his last name. He just got kind of fortunate with the name he was born with.
That's okay. Hey, and full qualifier, if I sound like a fanboy of BizNow, it's because I really am. They're not paying me anything to have Brian on the podcast. I am a absolute huge fan. I think BizNow gives so much to the community. The panels that BizNow has put together, the community, the communication. It is a wonderful, wonderful group to be a part of. And I really thank you, Brian, for taking time out of your day and putting together such a great group.
Yeah, I appreciate the kind words. We work really hard at what we do. So love to hear when people enjoy it.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Office Marketing Podcast. Be sure to join the conversation on our YouTube channel, LinkedIn, and Facebook pages. If you enjoyed the episode, head over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.